Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching TV Asia and you are watching The Great Debate. The Great Debate produced by Dr. Badar Malik. He is the basic concept. He is holding the basic concept of this debate. And today we have another topic, another important topic for our young about the education. And someone says, what about the education? They says education is a passport. Education is a passport to the future for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare it for today. And that's why we keep our young boys, especially, and how the education works. Let me share a story from my end that we are learning in Christianity, in Muslim, in Hinduism, Sikhism. There is a very strong value of the education. So they says you are learning from the childhood up to the grave. And I before starting the show, I like to share my story. In last program, I introduced my four boys as a youth, and one of my co-host, she's also doing one show, and she talked to me that, do you think that youth of with the boys is enough? Because if you have the girls, then how you will introduce? So this is the way we are learning, we are educating, we are getting the education sometime from our colleagues also. She is very junior, but the way she told me, and I really inspired and I understand. That's why today I like to introduce the four young boys. And why? And these young boys, let me introduce one of each one of the guests. And I always use as a guest. The reason for this one, because I believe they spare some time for doing some research for my nation, for my people. And this show is going to be watched in around 106 countries. And what information we are going to share from the TV Asia today, it is important for everyone. It was discussed in past, it is going to be discussed in future, but there is nothing wrong to get the idea. These boys are really part of the sea. They're living there and they know exactly what problem are there. Sometimes being a parents, we don't understand. Sometimes being a mentor, we don't know. Sometimes being a community leader, we're still very far from there. So we like to know from them. So I like to thanks to every young boy in my show, and this is from the second show of our from the TV Asia. I like to introduce the team A. So team A is today that Christopher Malik is part of the team A. Who's the Christopher Malik? Christopher Malik is a young guy who is studying in one of the best school and college of Queensland and Charlie, and that's his introduction. What introduction says? He says that he and his family believe on education. That's why he's going to one of the best school or college in Queensland. Team A, second partner, the partner of Christopher Malik is Carter Stephen. Carter Stephen also in grade 12 of one of the best school of a state, and that is Brisbane Boy College. And again, same thing, he believes, his parents believe that education is important, and that's why he's one of the best school. Now, Team B, let's go back to the Team B. Team B, we have another guest from the Townsville, Shah Farhan. He was part of the Ipswich Grammar School, and now he's just been, because of the COVID, he in the Townsville, and I believe because his parents are, his father is doctor, they also believe on the good education. That's why he is on the one of the good school. Last of Team B player, Mr. Ali Nasar, he is again a sports person, but he believe on education. He understands the value of the education, and that's why he is in Brisbane Boy College. These are the four assets of my generation, and I like to know from them, not for me, for everyone, what is best, what is good, because there are many other Christopher Malik, Carter Stephen, Shah Farhan, and Ali Nasar in the community, and they are still thinking what we have to do, what we have to plan. And this is Australia. When I came in Australia, I find out they have one of the best education system in all streams. But this is your time. We like to know in 2021 that what is best of our nation. Let's start the top. If you know the topic, that's fine. If you don't know, these are our honorable guests on your screen. You can see all Team A and Team B on your screen. Christopher Malik and Carter Stephen, Team A, and Team B, Ali Nasar and Shah Farhan. And today they are going to discuss vocational education versus higher education. And I don't know what happened with the title, but look like the title is itself explaining that which team is going to talk what. So the word came before vocational education, going to be supported by the team A. Mean that Christopher Malik or Carter Stephen is going to talk about the why vocational education is very good, and their discussion should cover everything. What does it mean by everything? They have to cover state, they have to cover this country, and they have to cover internationally. That okay, that's not only that we are living in a small pit. And coming back to the team B, they are going to talk about the higher education. That why, what is the benefit of the higher education? And I believe Ali Nasar and Shah Farhan are the competent. They can discuss and they can go and they can talk about higher education. In first round, as we know that everyone is going to talk about my time round, so they are going to talk about their topic. But in second round, we have an interesting round that is called the crossfire round, and I like more hard questions from all guests. And the last round, which is my round, and I personally believe that my round should be the hardest round for everyone. That's why we call it hard time round. Okay, let's start with the Carter Stephen. Sir, Team A, Carter Stephen. Sir, do you think the vocational education system is the best system after finishing their school?
Absolutely. First of all, I'd just like to thank you for having me on the show. My first point in terms of how good vocational education is the cost and entry requirements to enroll in vocational education programs is significantly less than that of universities. We know that because according to Hospitality Insights, vocational schools often have fewer years required to earn the degree of certification and often cost less in tuition each year. We also know that VET courses, otherwise known as vocational education and training courses, are more affordable and therefore more accessible to the whole of Australian citizens, as VET courses range from $5,000 to $30,000, whereas the average cost of a bachelor's degree across Australia can cost over $20,000 to $45,000 per year. We also know that the study time required for vocational education programs is significantly less compared to higher education institutions. According to Centrecare WA, vocational education and training courses normally take between 6 months to 2 years, whereas a bachelor's degree at university takes between 3 to 4 years. Those numbers are the same statewide and federally. We also know that vocational education graduates are offered higher pay and greater financial stability. Citing data from the National Centre for Vocational Education Research and Graduate Careers Australia, a report found that vocational education graduates have a slightly higher median salary of $56,000 compared to a bachelor degree graduates, which their median salary is $54,000, so a slight difference. We also know that vocational education graduates are offered better job opportunities. Vocational education graduates have a better chance of finding a job, with 78% of VET graduates finding a job compared to 69% of bachelor degree graduates. Those numbers are the same for Queensland, all states, so nationwide. Lastly, I would also like to make out that the federal government's Australian Jobs 2016 study found that 9 out of the 10 occupations with the greatest number of future jobs needed will require vocational education rather than higher education qualifications.
So the stats you share, definitely it has a depth and it has a value. But does it cover everything? We would like to know from Shah Farhan. Shah Farhan is a part of the team B, and he already had enough water today. He is not feeling well, but still, I believe that Shah always participate in good debates, and this is one of his good tests. That let's see that how he's first of all he's like to confirm and he like to support the higher education is the best education, and then he will like to say something about Carter explanation, that does Carter explanation is enough to support the vocational education. Yes, Shah Farhan, it's your time
Uh,
now. Sir.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very honored to be here. Just some of the few points I'd like to make. Um, as we say, especially being the youth of Australia, we go on and on about how the main thing schools should prioritize is about the individual finding jobs after they graduate or if they decide to leave schools. And through jobs, obviously, we want to be getting paid well. We want to be stable. We want to support our friends. We want to support our family when we grow up. And we can only do this through obviously having a stable salary. So I would just like to point out a few statistics. In Australia, the highest paying ethnic group happens to be the Asian Australian. And out of the Asian Australians, 87% of the Asian Australian population actually go to university. So yes, it is in fact objectively correct that in order to get a vocational education, it costs less, and it may be beneficial for a few individuals. I think when we're looking at the broader picture, when we're looking at this from a bigger picture, it can be it's an objective statement that through higher education, the most well-paid jobs can be achieved, and this is obviously represented directly in statistics. Like the highest paying jobs happen to be ones which require a university degree, such as engineering, such as medicine, such as law, business. All these things require at least a 4-year university course. And yes, you're able to support yourself, support your family by not going to university and pursuing a career in vocational education. But the disparity between an individual who receives a vocational education and the disparity between an individual who goes to university is there. While this may not show on an individual level, yes, obviously, some people who receive a vocational education might actually be making more money than someone who goes to university. I think when you're looking at it from a bigger picture and from a general picture, it can be confirmed that people who go to university and get jobs after going to university are a lot more on their feet and are actually inheriting a higher income.
Right. So, what Shah is trying to say, he's still feeling that for some conditions, what Carter has mentioned about the family needs or personal need, individual needs, it might possible that vocational education are good. However, he himself explained that the best education is academic education, higher education. Let's go back to the Christopher Malik, and definitely he knows both ends of the education. He's in one of the best school. Christoph, what do you think? How you weight the explanation of Carter and Shah Farhan, and what you'd like to add from your end?
Look, I believe the debate itself needs to be clarified a bit. There are a couple things that we need to address directly, right? I think that when we refer to the vet sector and vet education, I think we're directly referring to trades or more labor-heavy jobs, right? And when we think of uni, we clearly think of more intellectual or knowledge-based, right, or theory-based. Just a few things with Shah. I think that the sort of obscure example that he used of Asian Australians is kind of a huge generalization of actually everyone who goes to uni, right? There are obviously cultural factors and other things at play than simply the fact of one correlation between all of them, that they're all going to uni. So I don't think this has any real basis in fact or objectiveness. Another thing is that the opposition failed to point out was that uni is not made for everyone, right? Whereas vet doesn't require the level of skill and in some cases, sort of intellectual capability as uni. Now, for the pro-vet side, right? So I think there's two clear things as to what every school graduate seeks in their future career, that being employability and earnings prospects, right? As Shah pointed out. The fact of the matter is that in Queensland context, people with lower ATARs from high school simply don't have these courses as a choice, right? They are essentially forced to go into lower paying uni degrees in which their prospects are worse than vet, or simply outcast because the social stigma around going to TAFE or getting a vet degree, right? These days, going to TAFE is sort of looked down upon as something dumb or stupid to do, when the fact of the matter is your earning prospects are most likely higher, right? And additionally, uni is not just the education, right? We also have to consider the fact that dorms and boarding and are on top of the tuition. This only drives up the price, as stated by Carter, right? Uh, Additionally, the greatest skill shortages are within the vet sector. I have a list here of the greatest skill shortages in the entirety of Australia, right?
Yeah.
And they all say electricians, carpenters, metal fitters, machinists, motor mechanics, plumbers. These are all trades that are not learned at a university level, or the baseline knowledge is instead taken from a vet education. Additionally, this social stigma and the societal belief that to succeed you must have a uni degree is simply untrue, right? As Shah has agreed in saying that vet jobs in some cases will pay more than uni degrees. Another
Shah
thing
agree.
is
Shah
combined.
agree. Yeah, Christoph, let me clarify. You mentioning that the Shah agree that the vet sector job pay more than the university degree.
Yeah, he said that. So
Yeah, so I said on an individual level, yes, a person who gets a vocational education can receive more money, can make more money than someone who goes to university on an individual level, obviously not on a general level.
Right. Okay. Continue.
That's yeah, okay. I think that also because of certain statistical anomalies where the highest paid doctors would be carrying the bulk of the average. So that would also lead to errors within the data, but that's beyond the fact. Additionally, when you have a lower degree, you're able to overcome your debt easily, right? We see a huge issue with student debt with unis. We see in the US on an international level, there's approximately $1.8 trillion in student debt, which some people are simply unable to pay. Why? Because the employability of certain graduates is simply not there. I have a quote from in America they have the Ivy League, and in here they have the Group of Eight, right? It's the sector of the highest prestigious universities, which include, I think, the University of Sydney, University of Melbourne, and University of Queensland, among others. The director of this group has said herself that there are too many graduates, right? The fact that you have an oversupply of degrees, she's saying here, too many graduates will result in a decrease in employability, right? So we see the opposition seeking a worse prospect for these high school leavers, right? We see that they want to have them lower pays, and the fact of the matter is these skill shortages exist in places where only vet sector can educate. That's it.
Right.
Thanks.
Right. That space or that area only be covered by the vet sector. So that was the last statement from Christopher Malik. Ali, Shah also added something which is he has to now defend while its crossfire round is there, that he already leave a very loose statement that vet sector is really sometimes is more than educational. But anyway, this is a statement and individual ones, but still this is a platform where you should stay with your opinion. That's all. So we will go back to Shah, but we like to know from Ali what you have for to support yourself, Shah statement, and crosstalk with the Carter and Christopher Malik statements. You are mute. Thank you.
My name. Yeah, firstly, I would just like to thank you, Mr. Zaidi, and TV Asia for having me today. I think there are many reasons. There are a lot of reasons why academic is better than vocational, but because we don't have that much time, I might just name four why I think academic is better than vocational. So, firstly, career prospects. I think that for some types of job, the only way to get employment is if you have a university degree. It's a universal concept. So in countries like India and Pakistan, and you've lived in Pakistan, and you would know that, Mrs. Aziz, you've lived in Pakistan, and you would know that vocational education doesn't have much value if you wanted to move to different countries. So that's my first supporting argument that if you wanted to move abroad to a different country with the education you've done here, it's hard to get the same employment status that you usually have. Secondly, you develop a wide range of skills. What I mean by that is university education trains students to develop critical thinking and communication skills with a time frame, because unis usually go for 4 years and most vet subjects are 1 to 2 years. So the time frame of having 4 years, it teaches you more, not about the degree what they're teaching, but it's more about how are you going to talk in an interview, or where the communication skills and the critical thinking is going to come. So that's the second reason, which like a vet subject wouldn't be able to do in a time frame of 1 or 2 years. Thirdly, employment preferences. Many employers still give preference to job applicants with a university degree over a person who's probably done a vet subject. And it makes sense, because when you have 4 years of knowledge worth compared to someone who's got two, as I said before, it makes more sense that you would want to employ someone who's done a university degree and he's got more knowledge in depth of what he's getting employed for. So those are my three. Lastly, a broad scope of learning. So what I mean by that, it usually encompasses a broad range of related subjects in uni. This is useful in choosing between many different careers. For example, so if you're doing a Bachelor's of Business, usually there are 8 majors, and that could be marketing, sports management, and etc. So this gives a variety of options, and that doesn't really restrict you. But on the other side, vice versa, if you went to a vocational school or did a vet subject, if you decided to change a career path, you would have to start from zero. But with university, you've got that majors where if you wanted to change fields in that same, you've got marketing. Like if I'm taking the example of Bachelor's of Business, you've got marketing, you've got sports management. There are many other different pathways for you to go. But the restriction and the lack of freedom compared to vocational to the higher education, it's very difficult. So those are basically my 4 points.
Yeah, I think the positive you have about while you are comparing with Asian countries, and definitely there are some title always the parents like to say, oh, you're doctor or you're engineer. Other than that, not. But in fact, that was a good discussion, and we're concluding this first round with everyone has very good output, very positive outcome, and very unique concept within the discussion, which is important for the parents to see that how deep these youth or young boys are really doing work. Now coming to the crossfire round. So I would like to give the opportunity to Shah Farhan to have a crossfire round with Christopher Malik and see that what Shah is going to ask to Christopher Malik about the vocational, why that higher education or academic education is better than vocational, and why Shah Farhan is believing and he think that Christopher Malik may not have the answer the question he is going to raise. Yes, sir.
Thank you. First of all, just to clarify my earlier statement, I said on an individual level that sometimes someone who has a vocational education could potentially make more money than someone who gets a university degree. But I said on a general basis, this is not correct. On a general basis,
Right.
someone who goes to university is more likely to get a higher paying job and more likely to support their family with a higher income. Besides moving forward
Shah,
on that,
Shah, before proceeding for question, I like to just share with you. This is a media platform, and we need something like that. So you give the loose ball, and we play with the loose ball.
yes, okay, just to clarify.
Yeah, I know. It's very just for fun.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah,
That's
it's
the
nothing.
question.
So now, what you're going to ask?
Yeah, the question I would just like to ask Christopher is, how does he think mass change in society is achieved? Now, I would just like to give a few examples. Do you think Muhammad Ali Jinnah, do you think anyone would have taken him seriously as someone who opposed British colonial powers and someone who advocated for Pakistan to be a separate country? Do you think anyone would have taken him seriously if he wasn't a esteemed lawyer, do you think anyone would have taken Martin Luther King seriously if he didn't have numerous degrees in law, in sociology, in political science? Do you think anyone would have taken Angela Davis, a revolutionary African-American political activist and philosopher? Do you think anyone would have taken her seriously if she didn't have those degrees? Another example is Mahatma Gandhi. Do you think the Indian public would have ever taken Mahatma Gandhi seriously? And would he have ever been the sort of figure he is today in Indian culture if he wasn't from such an esteemed, if he didn't, obtain such an esteemed degree in law? The answer is no. While yes, not everyone needs a higher education to be successful in life, if we are to create mass change, if we are to advocate for something which actually betters our society, on an objective level, I think higher education, that's why higher education is valued so much. Christopher talked about cultural norms surrounding why higher education is valued. Well, maybe the reason higher education is valued in African and Asian cultures is because we know as Asian Australians, and our parents know, that if we don't have this higher education, that we are not considered of value. We are not considered people to be taken seriously by the same people who used to oppress us. So while, yes, the oppressors, they have this sort of privilege where they don't need that vocation, they don't need that higher education to be successful in life, to be looked upon as equal. But that's the same reason why 87% of Asian Australians in Australia have a higher education, because mass change in society can simply not be achieved through just a vocational education.
Uh, 2 minutes, sir.
Look, I think that was sort of dragging the debate off the topic. Also, your description of oppressors was kind of strange. But beyond that, okay. So you brought the examples of Martin Luther King, Angela Davis, and Mahatma Gandhi, right? While they did have good educations, it is a selective bias, right? There are plenty of leaders of revolutionary movements or social movements who were never educated, right? The very fact that the communist revolutions occurred was not on the backs of education because they would have jobs. It was the backs of peasants who didn't have any education, right?
Could you give me an example of revolutionary leaders who have a vocational degree or they don't have a higher education?
Look, I don't have the names on me right now. You can give me literally 5 minutes. I can give you probably five.
Yeah, but the
names.
point is, you don't have.
If you let me respond to.
Well, everyone here would tell you that
it's common sense, right? Wherever communism does occur, it's not because of it.
Who is now famous and was a revolutionary leader.
Okay, this is quite obvious, right? Anywhere where communism or socialism has occurred is a result of revolution from the peasants. If they were educated, they wouldn't be peasants. Okay, but anyway, what was the second part? I forgot. After you said example of Gandhi. What was your elaboration on that?
Do I have to repeat what I just said? Is that part of?
Yeah, you can do it if you want. If you don't want to, I don't have to answer your question. That's.
Well, no, what you actually do. That's what the debate is. So.
Okay. Well, I'm asking for a clarification.
Okay, that's okay. You just have to ask nicely.
Okay. I'll write you next time.
Yeah. So just the point I made about Mahatma Gandhi, the same point I made about Muhammad Ali Jinnah, is that if they didn't have the higher education, they would not be able to overcome the colonialist regime, which obviously was an oppressive regime. I don't know why you thought calling the oppressive regime oppressors was a weird statement when that's in fact what they were. The British rule in India and modern day Pakistan was an oppressive regime. And I just made the statement that if these revolutionary leaders didn't have the education, they would not have been taken seriously.
Yeah. Okay. I think Shah, we already have the answer. Yeah.
No, I'll just
because your time.
I want to go some kind of rabbit hole, right? I think the aim of the debate here is to outline vocational versus higher education. Yeah. Now, we're never going to claim to start some sort of social revolution with vocational education, right? We're simply looking at the prospects of employability and earnings, right? So we're never ever going to claim that we want to start some kind of revolution. Is that a benefit of higher ed degree? Sure, we'll concede that, but I don't see honestly the intense relevance to this debate.
Okay, okay.
Can I
Now,
answer that?
Carter, no. Yeah, Carter. Now, this is your time, and I like to see a cross question from Carter to Ali Nasser.
Yeah, absolutely. So just with what Ali was saying, with people's when they go for a job, and I think he was saying that employers generally like to see a university degree. That's fine, but there are some jobs which, quite frankly, don't need a university degree. So if you want to become a barber, if you want to become a carpenter, if you want to become an electrician, you don't need to go to uni, and you can just go to a vocational education training holder like TAFE, which are very easy. They're very flexible. Just coming to my question for Ali, in terms of the university sort of thing, I found a study from the National Centre for Vocational Education Research and Graduate Careers Australia, found that the highest average starting salary for a VET qualification, which is a Cert 4 in hazardous areas, specifically electrical, was $85,400, which is higher than the highest starting salary with a bachelor level degree, which is dentistry, at $80,000. That's what the report said. That's just a cold, hard fact. With that in mind, why should people be going to universities? I mean, the numbers say that you can earn more.
Short answer. Yeah. I'll say short question, short answer, because we have to have more rounds.
Firstly, I was saying that in context to like becoming like a Chris wants to become a lawyer, I don't think you could do a vet subject to become a lawyer. So that's firstly that point of view. Secondly,
You can. I've just gone on the TAFE website, and it says we offer courses in government, crime and justice studies, legal services and business administration for the legal industry.
But Chris, is that a lawyer? You can become a lawyer with vet subjects?
Look. I think I just want to clarify our side of the house. Right? We're never going to claim that you can become every single profession, but we're saying the immediate employability and pay prospects will always be more than uni degrees.
So I'm not saying anything about like exactly what he said, that there are certain subjects, or whether there are certain fields that you can't get into university to like a barber or something like that. You can't. There's context to it, right? You saying something?
You do understand. Sorry. Yeah.
No, Ali, can you answer
goes both ways.
Yeah. I'm trying to get there, but people come. Okay. So what my opinion is that there are contexts to it, so you can't become it's difficult. So yeah, it's hard for a barber you can't go to university to become a barber, and it's hard for you to become like a engineer with a vet subject. So there's a context to it. We're coming back to your salary. I've never said that like if you go to university you're going to get paid higher. I just said that if you go to university, employers would employ you more. I didn't say anything about you're gonna there. I didn't talk anything about salaries. So I hope that clears things up.
Right. So Carter, he explained that he did not say for all of us, and especially all parents, that if you are going to send your children to the vet sector, they can still earn more. Okay, let's go for the hot talk question, because you already finished the crosstalk round, and that's possibly happen that when you have the crosstalk round, it is possibly that we are going to have your opinion. Opinion is opinion. Everyone has a right to opinion.
So do I get to ask one question? One question.
No, I'm going to ask now. So you already finished your.
That's fine. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you, Christopher, the first question. Christopher, you know that the whole system, every country is running with the good system. Coming back to the educational, has a very good system also, very good system. An Australian education system that is one of the main source of also. You know, it's like a very business. And do you think that if you are going to look at the vet sector international student, and you are looking the higher education international student, that how more business is brought up by higher education people. That does not show that higher education is important than the vet education.
Yeah, look, I think you were cutting out a bit there, but I got the basic gist of it. Uh, while the top end of the higher education sector may result in higher paying jobs, right? Your doctors and your lawyers, whose pays are always going to be higher. The average median, the mid end of the higher education sector, of the vet sector, my bad, is always going to be higher paid than the higher education. And another thing I think we also see is within the vet sector, you have more chance for self-employability, which is always going to lead to higher pay, right? That makes enough sense, right? Usually what the system is that when you become a sparky, like an electrician or a plumber or whatever trade you take up, you do an apprenticeship and then set out to either want to be employed or create your own form of business, right? Which doesn't always happen with higher ed degrees. A law, for example, you do require many years in the field as associate or some sort of law clerk before having the experience to set off and create your own firm. So I think that in terms of pay, there's no reason for vet not to pay more than higher ed.
Right, right. Actually, I think there was a disconnected. That's why my question was that international student arrival. When you're comparing the international student arrival, we are expecting that more international students are coming for higher education. Also shows that higher education is important to our economy. Also, that was my question. But anyway, you already explained it. Do you like to add more, Christopher?
Yeah. I think both forms of education can be equally valuable because what actually happens is you end up staying for more than just one vet degree, right? So I think that the economic sort of substance of the individual is not only through the degrees they take, but also sort of their existence and their spending habits, which most likely wouldn't change regardless of the degree you take. So I think in terms of differing economic substance, it doesn't change much.
Right, right. Ali Nasar, you have just mentioned about that values, salaries, and everything there. And Christoph nicely explained that the vet sector is producing, and Carter also is producing a big number of the people. They are basically serving from the bottom. So, do you think, Ali Nasar, that if we don't have the electricians, if we don't have the plumbers, if we don't have these people, especially in hospitality, we don't have the chef. Look at the hospital, the businesses of that. How do you think that without vocation, without these people, you can run the system with the only international higher education? Mute, mute.
Yeah, I was just saying you obviously need people who can do that to run the system. You need barbers, you need you need all those people, but I don't understand what the question is here.
Yeah, my question is that if we don't have these people, those people are produced by the vocational education.
Mm.
And if we have the many engineers, everyone is, as you mentioned, that everyone is trying to do the engineering study or higher education, then how we run the system, the balance of the system?
Well, see, that's what I was talking in context to. If you wanted to become a lawyer or engineer, same thing again. You can't. It's the same thing. If you want to do vice versa, how would you? If you want to have engineers, my question to you would be how can you like apply them through vocational? They can't become engineers, doctors through vocational like vet subjects. So that's my question going to be. So it goes hand in hand. That's what my opinion would be.
That's nice. That they both sides are hand in hand. Carter, the both sides are. Can you unmute yourself? So Carter, they say that the both sides are hand in hand. Carter, you look. The Australian system is one of the best country in the world, and you see that the country is led by the people, mostly nations, and then people from the different levels. So, do you think that education is really important? Because somehow you need a leader to run the system. And for the leading the country, I'm not talking about the revolutionary leaders. I'm talking about the real leaders we have every day we are watching. Do you think that that leaders are very well produced by the vocational center or academic educational centers?
I would definitely say vocational, because when you are, most university degrees will have you end up getting a job in an office working with people who are like-minded. When you go to a vocational education training center such as TAFE to become an electrician or to become a carpenter, who anyone will tell you this, they are in hot demand. I know many personally that get paid over $100 an hour. So I'd say for many South Asians watching this, electricians, plumbers, and carpenters are in hot demand. I would say that definitely vocational education develops and creates better leaders because they work with real skills in the real world. I know, Shah, you seem not to agree, but just listen. You are dealing with hands-on jobs. You aren't in front of some keyboard with a computer looking at numbers and letters. You are out there working with real people, doing real things with your hands, laying bricks, building houses, putting in electric cables for electric cars. I would definitely say that vocational education creates better leaders because they're out in the real world. If you get a degree, you end up in an office and you are not in the real world. It's pretty simple. You're out in the real world dealing with real people, having to interact. A lot of the vocational jobs, you have to interact with people. And so you develop better communication skills. You develop a sense of responsibility and also independence through having to know that you have to deal with other people. And you just get better people skills and you understand how people think more. And you're able to get a better sense of their wants and needs instead of just sticking behind some computer. If you're, say, a lawyer or if you're, say, an engineer, you're not really doing much. You're just behind a keyboard doing the 9 to 5, 6 days a week until you're 65, and then you retire, and then you're dead. But if you become an electrician, plumber, to sum it all up, if you go to vocational education, you become a plumber, electrician, bricklayer, barber, you're dealing with real people, you develop real skills, which I think will turn you out to be a great leader. And that's what I think.
Right. Okay. So what Carter said, look, Shah, your question is not from the Carter. So your question will come from my end. So what Carter says, he defends still, that I like the power from Carter, that he defends still that most leader has been produced by the vocational system. This is, again, because he's supporting the opinion. So now I have a different task for you. Because I know, and we all believe, that both educational system has a good value. So what I'm expecting from Shah? I'm expecting from Shah to have a closeout statement that both systems are really important. So because again, we are not here to reject anything, absolutely. We have a good viewers. We are, trying to be positive and trying to say something which is very friendly. So everything, what everyone says is perfectly right. There is nothing wrong. However, sometimes we've gone out from the area where we no need to go from, outside. Now, what I need from you, Shah, and just be relaxed. What I need from you to explain me. I'm being a father of one of the young child. Explain me that why I should send my kids to vocational education, or why I should my kids to the higher education. 2 minutes.
Thank you. I would like to actually reference something Christopher said earlier. He said that a lot of individuals are simply just not made for university. And I 100% agree with that.
Good.
And you're talking about yourself, that why you should or shouldn't send your child to university or let him or her do something, or obtain a vocational education. I think at the end of the day, it is your child's life. So there's a good chance that the child might not be suited for university, and we have to respect that decision. And there's a good chance that the same child might not be suited for a vocational education. There are many people who, like myself, who are just not fit to do a job which requires a significant amount of labor work from them. And just to put in motion how important vocational education and higher education is, I think when we look at society from a broader perspective, I think we can all agree that someone who's a barber or a cleaner or a chef contributes just as much to society, running smoothly than in comparison to someone like a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer, because we need all these jobs in order for a society to function adequately. And I think the countries with the highest demand for more immigrants to settle there actually have a balanced variety of people who have had vocational education and people who've had university education, and that's something I believe in personally as well. I think that a lot of the times, the prioritization of higher education as the only way to achieve success creates like a classist mindset into people, and that's basically what I want to say. That just because you do not go to university doesn't mean you don't contribute as much to society, and the exact same thing goes on the other hand as well. That you do not need a vocational education or a higher education to be successful in life. It truly depends on what you as an individual flourishes upon. That's why both forms of education are very
Yeah, wonderful. Look at my viewers. What exactly we are trying to achieve from this talk? We don't like to start we don't like to reinvent the wheel. The information is already in place. And just for your information, that these four guests were not decided what topic and which topic they are going to favor. So we just give them an assignment of the show to talk about what we like.
You're on mute. You're muted. You're muted right now.
As Mr. Zaidi was saying, I think it was a very good show, especially in considering that we knew what we're gonna argue for or against at the start of the show. So I feel like it was a good discussion. Shah, Mr. Malik, Mr. Stefan, do you want to add anything? No?
Yeah, I'll add something. I just wanted to say. I just wanted to say that Ali and Shah, you made some good points. So Shah, you sort of went off on a bit of a tangent at some time talking about Mahatma Gandhi and India, but I think both sides of education in terms of vet and uni are good. Obviously, I think vocational education is much better because that's what the stats say. And I would encourage a lot of the South Asians watching the show today to sign up for vocational education.
Yeah, I think with that, I reckon we should wrap up this show. I totally enjoyed it, and hopefully that you guys enjoyed it too. And I think with that, hope you like that show. Keep following TV Asia, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much.